Due to the Phoenix Wright games doing pretty well, a series was born, and so in 2002, just a year after the first game, Phoenix Wright Justice for All was released in Japan on the Game Boy Advance. So let's see if that follow-up is worth it. Justice for All is pretty much the exact same game as Ace Attorney. It is a visual novel with some investigation and courtroom antics. The gameplay loop has not changed between games either. You are shown a murder, then you must investigate it before going to the courtroom and talking to witnesses. It is here that you are to point out the holes and contradictions in their testimonies in order to find out what is really happening and what's going on behind the scenes. But that's not to say these two games are exactly the same. There are a lot of adjustments to the pacing and game flow. The first is that cases are usually more personal to Phoenix, in that he is either involved in or at least at the murder location instead of being told about it all after the fact. Such as the second case where he is visiting Maya as she is training to be a spirit medium when a murder occurs right there. Or the third case, which involves a murder at a circus that Phoenix just happened to have gone to a few days before. So while he doesn't know everything that's going on, he is more aware of the clients and the cases in general. These little moments that happen before each case officially start are marvelous because it helps set up what the case is going to be about, and it also adds some much needed character development to the game. In the first game, we aren't shown too much about Phoenix or anyone really, just the reason why Phoenix became an attorney. And while the investigation parts have him talk and make jokes, especially if you are examining everything, the characterization is still a little flat. The other thing I didn't talk about in the first video was the connections to the spiritual world found within the story. So ghosts and spirits just exist and people can channel them. The cops even use this occasionally, and it's just so bizarre to be a feature in this game. They try and make it sound like it's a little unreliable and a little unbelievable, but Maya is great at doing this, so why can't they just contact the victim and ask who killed them? It might make things slightly easier. At least in the first game there is the excuse that Maya isn't super great with these abilities, but in this one she is using it pretty consistently, and they never actually use this to their full advantage. Branching off from that is a new mechanic introduced to this game called Psych Locks. These are deep secrets or lies that people tell Phoenix, and while he is holding a special item, he can see those locks around the people and the lie. Now these only happen in the investigation phase and not in the courtroom, which does not make sense because they're lying in the courtroom too, so the lock should pop up, right? So this thing is almost the perfect lie detector, but it is not used in a way that would be overly helpful, like asking people, did you kill that person? I mean, Phoenix does ask that once, but that's once in 4 cases to one person. He could have asked everybody and figured out who the killer was. The story reasons for all this supernatural stuff is kind of silly and swept under the rug, and you're just supposed to accept it, so I guess don't think about it as much as I did. Anyway, like I said earlier, the Psych Locks are mini interrogations done in investigation mode. The people ask you questions and you have to present evidence to them in order to get the truth. It's quite similar to a courtroom. But these are great, and I love their inclusion here. It feels like I'm actually investigating the case and figuring things out, because most of the time when you see a lock, you won't have the evidence right away to crack it. And that dangling mystery, oh gosh, it keeps me intrigued. Aside from that, the only other new gameplay changes are that your health doesn't refill between stopping points, which makes some sense, I guess, but it is kind of annoying. Makes the whole game slightly harder, or you just have to save more often because you might die more often. They also use the portrait selection of your evidence a lot more here. At any point you can look at and see who is involved in that particular story, and often you'll be presenting these people in order to answer questions. You can also present these profiles to other characters so they can talk about that particular person. It's a nice and natural evolution to the system. So that brings me to the actual cases, and for the most part they are so much better than the first game. Aside from the first case being a tutorial showing you who the murderer is, the other 3 do a good job of hiding who it is. The pacing is also better as no case goes to 3 days, thank God. Instead, a lot of the trials are split into 2 parts with different witnesses. While the cases are just as long, the new start being character focus and the murders of investigations going by a little quicker make it seem like they aren't. Except for the third case. I found going around the circus to be a little bit of a chore, but that's still better than case 5 of the first game. When you are in the courtroom, you may have noticed that Edgeworth isn't standing over there. He mysteriously vanished soon after the first game, and in his place, Franziska von Karma, the daughter of the prosecutor of the 4th case in the first game, is here in his place. I don't like her. Her gimmick is that she is a perfectionist, much like Edgeworth and her father, but more on the obsessive side when she will do anything to win. The annoying part is how she looks down on Phoenix, who has 5 major wins under his belt right now, 3 against Edgeworth and 1 against her father, so he knows what he's doing. Well, kinda. He knows how to bumble through it at least. So pretty much when anything happens, she cracks a whip at whoever is talking to get them to either change what they're saying or just to shut up, and it gets old very quickly. Fun fact, the only reason why she is in the game is due to the popularity of Edgeworth. Apparently no one in the company thought he was going to become popular, and so when they were making the second game, he was going to return, but then they didn't want him to lose every single court case to Phoenix. That will kind of undermine him as a character, being a fantastic prosecutor, and he might become boring, so instead, mysteriously vanished. The last couple of things to mention are that this game has also been ported pretty much everywhere, but unlike Ace Attorney, when it came to the DS, it did not get another case added, so it's more of a straight port. To help this game stand out from the first, there is all new music, including a new pursuit theme. And while I much prefer the first games, the second one did grow on me by the end. Otherwise, the music is good, even with a few callbacks to the first game which I liked. Also, due to this being a straight port of the second game, they don't mention the 5th case from Ace Attorney as it wasn't there at the time. So because of that, there are a few inconsistencies in this game, like how Edgeworth disappeared soon after the 4th case but is actually there for the 5th. Also, the small character development that Phoenix and Edgeworth go through in that case is reset, which is very annoying and a little confusing. In my opinion, I think that Phoenix Wright Justice for All is worth it, as overall it's just a better game than Ace Attorney. The character development felt more genuine and there's more of it. The cases are much more fleshed out and full of twists, so it isn't as easy to guess the killer right off the bat. The pacing is overall better, but it is, at least to me, harder than the first game, so take that as you will. The only 2 drawbacks here are Von Karma being a little bit annoying with her stupid whip, and the new pursuit music just isn't as hype. I mean, I wasn't high on coffee this time, so maybe that's why. So guys, tell me what you thought about Justice for All. Did you like it? Did you hate it? And how does it compare to the first game to you? Also, which case was your favorite and why? I really liked the second case, even though all the supernatural stuff is kinda silly, but the 4th case was just fantastic and a highlight of the game. The twist, the characters, the tension, it was all amazing and it was a lot of fun. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!